Hello and welcome to my blog. I will be talking about a number of different things. Nothing will be out of bounds, but predominantly it's going to be about domestic violence and failing of authorities. The blogs will be factual, or they may be fiction, or they may be a mixture of both. And this particular one is a mixture of both. It's fact and fiction. So the fact is, this is how a narcissistic person works, but the fiction is, I've made up the story. It's about a mother and son that go away on holiday. So there's fact and fiction there. One of the reasons I've done this is because, one, I like story writing. I enjoy it. I do song lyrics, as most people know, and poems. I've had a poem published, and I've had my own book published, which sells well. So I like writing. But the other thing was as well, when people have talked to me about the red flags and knowing if you're in a narcissistic relationship and stuff like that, it tends to be a lot going on and on and on, and it doesn't tend to digest with some people. Some people can clearly remember stuff, others can't. So if you put it in a story where the facts are there of how a narcissistic person operates, but it's just a fictional story, I think it's easy to digest. And it's already worked with me, because even though I left him when I was pregnant with Matilda, I didn't realise just how, from writing, just how many red flags there were there. And I kick myself, as many people who have been in domestic abuse relationships do, as to why I didn't see it. And I think, how did I not see that? And it annoys me to this day. But even more so now when I've been writing it, I think, oh my God, I didn't realise how bad it was. And this bit, I've only written a bit of what he did. So I'll stop waffling. Basically, this is a story where the actions are factual, as in what a narcissistic person does, but I've made it up. It's a fictional story. So it's basically based on a true story. So I hope you enjoy it, and here we go. I remember sitting with my friend in a caravan having a glass of wine. She was far older than me, very opinionated, but I enjoyed her company. And we did have some very thorough discussions, even if brought on by the wooziness of booze. She was a Labour supporter through and through. Me, I was Reform. Which, as you can imagine, didn't bode well with her. Our political opinions clashed somewhat. Me, I can forgo people's political opinions and just accept we are all different. She couldn't. So I tried to keep any political conversations out of the equation. Had she have known I voted Reform and was a Trump supporter, I don't believe I'd be sitting in a caravan. But she did tell me one thing that rings in my head to this day. She told me when she was in her late teens, she was in a relationship with another teenager, and it was domestic abuse relationship. Not domestic violence, it was an abuse. There is a difference. He never physically hurt her. He never hit her. He never strangled her. He never laid a finger on her. But he played mind games, coercive control. And here's where I hold my hands up. I didn't believe her. I didn't believe her that a teenager could have enough life experience and time to execute a perfectly orchestrated tirade of abuse. How could an 18-year-old manipulate a whole relationship? Control someone's life course, family and friends? I just didn't believe her. Until now, that is. Until I met Katie. Katie is my son's girlfriend, and in all my years of life, I've never met someone so devious, manipulative and cunning. She's just a genius at it. So good, in fact, I'm somewhat in awe, until I see the damage she's doing to the mental health of my son. Her toxicity is relentless, yet he sees nothing. A little vulnerable rabbit caught in the headlights, beaming into its eyes, blinding it. A foot gently teasing the accelerator pedal. Vroom! Vroom! Your life is in their hands. Her split decision decides whether she will instigate immense pain and carnage or allow Bunny to take a skip and a leap and bounce back to its waiting, loving family. You see, abusers don't just damage the partner, they damage the whole family and friends network, sucking the life force out of anyone connected to the partner who doesn't give the abusers gain. If you're a friend or a family member and they need you, you're in. It's not even a dislike or a like from them. They don't hate you, like you, or love you. It's whether you are useful to them at that moment in time. If not, boom, you're gone. And believe me, they will extinguish you out of that person's life like a dirty cigarette. And don't try to fight it. Don't try to win. You won't. You won't win. The victim will side with the abuser, clinging on like a leech to a rock. Anything you say will not work. They will see it as interfering, troublemaking, and throw you the classic line, "You just don't want me to be happy." Or even more demeaning, "You're just jealous." The victim will be oblivious to the fact that their friend circle is whittling down faster than bathwater going down a plug hole. And the fact that they're arguing with, if they're still speaking to them, family members, will go completely unnoticed by the victim. Completely unnoticed on the outside, that is. But on the inside, they've locked it away in a box, out of sight, out of mind. But really, it's still there burbling away inside, and periodically, that box lid lifts. And that's when you and the closest family members get the abuse and the blame. The victim is smoke screening their behaviour because facing the truth is an utter embarrassment, and by this time, they're too far in to turn around and face facts. The abuser is like a drug, and the victim is going nowhere without them. It's only with this latest episode I realised that I was totally wasting my time. We decided to go on holiday, and James asked to come. I knew, to Katie, this was like a red rag to a bull. But even I wasn't prepared for the utter devastation that was to follow. I knew Katie would be having none of this. There was no control for her, and I knew she would be as disruptive as possible, and she started again prior to us going away. She started with love bombing, and this is a classic tactic used by narcissists. They will give everything, usually sexually, dress overtly sexually, and shower the victim with gifts, often reminiscing on the good times. And this is how Katie started. We were going in our camper van, and it's not only needed a lot of work, it needed loading, and time was short as it was. The holiday was a last-minute decision, and time was running out to catch the ferry. We were under pressure, so Katie started with a game. She stated that she had already booked an event the day before leaving, and the reason she hadn't told James was that it was a surprise and it was their anniversary, so James had to go. An abuser will use the term anniversary for any moment, for example, when they first met, their first holiday, etc. This adds importance to the event, so the victim feels more obliged to confirm, and it works because he went. My son said, "It's our anniversary, so I have to go." "Anniversary of what?" I asked. No response. I knew Katie's game, so I responded with okay. I did all the preparation myself. This puts you in the position that you're already setting off knackered. But you have to be one step ahead of a narcissistic. Katie wants a row, she wants a big scene, she'll then make out she's the innocent party. "Oh, your family hates me and everyone's against me." Do not get lured into the hyena's den. Can see right through Katie, so her plan didn't work. And off we went on our jollies. I knew she would be fuming, and I was right. The love bombing turned to anger, then threats. "I'm going to leave you." That doesn't work. "I'm going to kill myself." That doesn't work. They'll carry on and on and on and say anything. But I was amazed this time when James stood up to her and still came. Gave me hope. But in hindsight, I wish he'd buckled and stayed, because he's too far gone, as the following shows. We arrived at our holiday destination, and all had gone well apart from Madam. She'd been constantly phoning and texting for the whole of the journey. James told me after our fallout that it was a constant string of questions, firing them off relentlessly like an AK-47. Bang, bang, bang. Meaningless, selfish, me questions. "Where are you? What are you doing? Have you spoken to any girls?" This is like a kettle boiling with a spout block for the victim. Dare to retaliate, and it will mushroom bigger than an atomic bomb dust cloud. Play along, and the questions will come thicker and faster. A narcissist will not leave you be. They won't leave you to enjoy your holiday. They will only let you enjoy something if they are the centre of attention. By the time we got to the ferry, James had gone through his phone charge and a power pack recharging his phone so that he could constantly reply to text messages and phone calls. The only time he stopped was when he fell asleep through exhaustion. Katie didn't stop though. 47 missed calls by the time he woke. And then it's back to the abuse. "Why didn't you effing answer?" she screamed. James had been totally brainwashed and couldn't see how totally irrational Katie's behaviour was. To the victim, it becomes the norm. A moment away for the victim is like someone taking the cork out of the boiling kettle spout, and those closest will get the aftermath. And how James dealt with it, as many do, is hit the drink. When that happens, we all become victims, courtesy of Katie. Now, I've been on holiday with James before post-meeting Katie, and it was absolutely brilliant. Quiet meals out, give and take from both sides. "No, I chose last night. We had pizza. You chose where we eat out tonight." Give and take, something Katie was incapable of. She only got the take memo. Watching her devour my son's personality and zest for life like a pack of hyenas on a discarded carcass was heartbreaking. So what happened on our so-called holiday? What could be so bad? Well, I'll tell you. First of all, on the first night, there was already a disagreement as James wanted to go to the most expensive restaurant, something neither of us could afford. The cheapest thing on the menu was €28 and he wanted a steak. That was about 40. This is something victims do. They put on a front, the "I'm okay" persona. "Look at me, I'm in a fancy restaurant, I'm having the time of my life." They also become concerned about other people's opinions. They really begin to matter to the victim, even if the other people are local gossips. Like the local wasters and the druggies, and they're always gossiping about anybody anyway and always putting people down. But this becomes obsessive. They know how utterly ridiculous they look, so they refuse to face it and they put on a front. They put on an act to face the world. James chose to sit in a restaurant on his own, alone, abroad, instead of being with his family. Having given birth to him, nurtured him and protected him throughout his life, I knew this wasn't the real James. I left the restaurant and went to a beautiful cafe down the road at a third of the price with just as good of food, I'd say even better. Afterwards I telephoned James stating I was going to take the camper and find an overnight spot to stay. I found the most beautiful location, a sandy parking place right next to the seafront. It hadn't been ruined by an overzealous money-grabbing council with copious signage, height barriers and those hideous money-grabbing machines where you have to download an app and spend 10 minutes paying, more stress and life wasted as we succumb to the powers that be. But I think that's maybe another blog. No, this was great. Free parking, you just pulled up and no one was taking the mickey. Campers came and went and I sat in the back of mine watching the sunset and hearing the waves crash, methodically coming in, trying to reach me and then crashing down as an immense force pulled them back, only to start the whole process over again. Sea waves are mesmerising. I could watch them all night and I did. Just taking periodic breaks to people watch and smile at the beautiful, serene chitter-chattering of the locals, testing myself to see if I could pick out any words, translate them to eavesdrop on the conversation and understand another world. What were they talking about? Then darkness fell and I retired to bed looking forward to the next day. The weather was perfect, not too hot, not too cold, just utterly pleasant. And the town was peaceful, litter-free. You could tell it was low crime, if any at all. The people clearly loved and cared for the town, not like some of the litter-strewn dumps you see in England or the noise of the drunkards and cokeheads falling out of the pub that I get in my hometown. The same idiots screaming like banshees until 2 a.m, jumping from one sexual encounter to an unselective other, the whole group eventually sleeping with everyone amongst it. No, this was different. This was class. People had a purpose, they had ambitions, they cared for the surroundings, they had respect for themselves. You wouldn't see them screaming and arguing in the street as the drug of choice began to wane and the downer kicked in. No, these were life-loving people. The only waster there was bred by me, and I was about to be rudely awakened to just see how mentally damaged he was. I fell asleep with a smile on my face, unaware of my impending doom. I had rung James and told him precisely where I'd parked. 1/2 mile from the Ferris wheel. There was a large Ferris wheel on the seafront, and we used this as a pointer for our directions. I clearly explained to him, just keep walking along the prom, away from the port, and you'll find me. At 2:30 a.m, the phone rang, and it was James. The torrent of abuse down the phone was repulsive, and it made me feel sick. He was swearing and mumbling his words, clearly drunk out of his mind. I tried to calm him, but to no avail. Being the sober, more sensible one, I immediately was concerned for his safety, and I knew how vulnerable he was. Thankfully, this was a pleasant place, as I explained. But had he put himself in the same situation in, for example, London, I don't think we would be having the same story. I would have feared setting off for him. But this wasn't London. The town hadn't been wrecked, and there was clearly no Khan here, so I set off. I tried to keep him on the phone, but it was nearly impossible as he screamed and swore at me, blaming me for everything wrong in his life. I didn't retaliate. I absorbed the abuse like a sponge, even when his insults got more aggressive and demeaning. I took the blows like a modern-day ally. I wasn't going to get knocked down. Every blow I picked myself up, dusted myself off and strode on. He, in return, kept screaming abuse, then putting the phone down like a spoilt child. It's so tiresome. I had to keep ringing him back. This, in their eyes, gives them power as they morph into the very abuser that put them into this situation in the first place. After walking for about 5 minutes, I could clearly see the Ferris wheel, but no James. It was madness. Even if he'd been staggering about drunk and he was slow, we should have crossed paths by now, but he wasn't there. "Where are you?" I asked. "I should have met you by now." "On the effing main road," he replied. That's when I realised what a game this was. He was pushing the ones he loved, attacking the ones closest to him to see how far they would go and when they would break, and at this point I nearly did. I felt physically sick. He had no intention of meeting me. The main road was on the other side. There's no way that he'd walk up that way. He was never going to meet him, and it was just a game to see how far he could push me. But then, oh my God, I stopped, dead in my tracks. I was terrified. In front of me was a figure. I was alone. I looked round, there was nobody about. A black silhouette, a large, dark figure, a man. Fear raced through me. I'd run out of ideas. There was nothing I could do. I put myself in the vulnerable position that he'd willingly, knowingly put himself in. But it wasn't my fault. I was put in this by him. With no protection whatsoever. Why hadn't I grabbed a knife? Even a butter knife from the kitchen drawer would have done something to protect me. But no, here I was in the middle of the night, stupidly, in a strange country, vulnerable, dressed only in my pyjamas. He'd put me in this situation, and now what was going to happen? He was still on the phone as I stood there like a rabbit in the headlights, my heart beating like a snare drum. I could hear in the distance the relentless verbal abuse as he warbled on, a stupid, drunken, drivelling mess. I got my head together. I said, "Shh!" He replied with, "What is it?" I explained in a whisper, "There's a man. Where are you?" And how James responded will change our relationship forever. I'll never, ever see him in the same light again. In my moment of need, after I'd given up my life for him, he failed me. He wasn't there for me. When I needed him most, he'd become as selfish and narcissistic as the bitch that had put him there. He was making a Katie. He was morphing into a Katie. My baby, my loving, caring, joyous, comical son had gone. He didn't care. I was actually crying when I wrote this. I cannot fathom how one toxic individual can twist and negatively change someone's personality for good. I was dumbstruck with his reply. This is what he said. "Where the F do you think I am? I'm on the main road where you effing left me." My heart broke. I was now oblivious to the danger I was in, and I gave him one last chance. Why? Because he's my son, and I loved him dearly. And I really didn't want to believe how heartless he was. I didn't really want to believe what he said. So I gave it one last chance. I'm terrified. There is a man here. I need you now. I might as well have said, what do you want for breakfast? My words meant nothing to him. Instead of running to my aid and panicking with fear for my predicament, he just carried on ranting with his selfish, sick attitude. Me, 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 me. Just like Katie. I couldn't cope. My whole body felt weak. I trembled with utter devastation. I'd lost everything in an instant. Our relationship was gone. We could never get back from this. No amount of apologising, even if you wanted to, even if you did apologise, nothing could undo this rot, pain and abandonment I felt. At that moment, our mother and son relationship was gone. The bond torn to shreds. Katie had struck her final blow, and I was slipping down the ropes into a bloodied slump as the crowd roared out for more, the senseless violence not satisfied their lust for pain. As I stood there, motionless, the man that I'd feared, silhouetted in the dark night, walked past me with a nod and a shadowy smile. I turned to see him walk away, and I didn't even sigh a relief, because at that moment, I wish he was a psychopathic lunatic. For as long as it was quick, I wish he'd taken the life from me and put me out of my misery, as now, what have I got to live for? So I hope you enjoyed that, is the right words. I hope you've learnt something from it, and it was a good story. And as I say, that's how a narcissistic operates in my experience, how mine did. And if you'd like to comment below, that'd be great. But obviously, if you are in a relationship, a domestic violence relationship, please don't comment if that's going to put you in danger or if you can't do it anonymously. But thank you very much. And the new podcast will be coming soon. Thank you for listening and have a wonderful night.